right, welcome back, everybody. Joining us by Zoom to discuss the seriousness of the security breach of data on Jamaica's immigration site, Gavin Dennis, Director of Strategy, Operations and People, G5 Cybersecurity, Inc. Good morning to you, Gavin. Good
Morning,
to have
Gavin.
you with us.
Good morning, Simone and Neville.
Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, sir. When you saw and heard this news, Gavin, tell me what your first reaction was.
Wow, so I was surprised, right? I was surprised because of the nature of the data that was disclosed. And yeah, so for me, just as a professional in this industry, it was surprising.
And for folks who don't understand the nature, because Never was asking me last week, like what information could have possibly been accessed or left open? What kind of information are we talking about, Gavin?
So from the article released by TechCrunch, it mentioned that there were records relating to passport numbers, date of birth, COVID test results, and among others, video logs, images. So because persons were uploading or needed to upload videos to prove that they were wherever they are supposed to be, and a lot of those pieces of data were disclosed.
Right. And you have been quoted in an article as saying that the data potentially offers a perfect lead sheet for lottery scammers who have targeted mainly elderly North Americans. You stand by that?
So yes, what happens now is that in order for you to scam persons or to impersonate them, you need some critical pieces of info. There are some which are easy to find online. So you might be able to find when someone's birthday because of things they post on social media, but things like their passport numbers, that's not the type of thing someone just posts on social media. And then because the data included other things related to people's location, what can happen in the end is that these pieces of data from the breach can now be combined with other things, so correlated to other pieces of data to now create a complete set.
Yeah. How did this happen? How was it allowed to happen? What really happened?
So I believe someone made an error when they had set up the storage server that has the data, and they forgot to make it private. So there are situations where you can have a server set up to store data, and the entire internet is free to access it and download what is there. But in this case, the nature of the data itself is confidential data and should not have been available to the general public. And that, I believe, was just a genuine error. And TechCrunch, the reporter, they saw that issue and reported it.
When you said they forgot to make it private, that was just a little button you pressed and it private, or what? What do you mean by that?
It's a point and click issue where you log into your account. The service provider is Amazon. So you log into your Amazon AWS account, and you would just point and click to say public, private, and there are about 2 other options. So it's really a point and click type of change.
Cannot be that simple, Gavin.
I was just going to say, as simple as that.
Gavin, how does this happen on a site with this kind of import? How?
So from my experience, I've seen the issue before. And what happens is that because the type of server, it's not like a normal website. So a lot of times administrators believe that people don't know about it because it's not the type of link that you would post online and say, hey, visit this site, because it's not a normal website. So because of that, sometimes when they set it up, they believe that because they haven't told anyone about it, that no one knows that it's there. And then that leads to the issue.
Well, I don't know if you know, but how would that gentleman have come up on this? He was just on the net and just decided to go and go peep, or how?
If it's open, then
yeah.
Well, from their article, they mentioned that they were doing research into COVID-19 apps, right? But apart from that, there are lots of search engines and crawlers who they crawl the internet, they scan all of the different IPs and such, and they try to discover what is there. Similar to Google, what Google does. The reason why you can type into Google and find a website is because there are automated bots that visit all of the domains on the internet and they try to index what is there. And a similar thing happens with the type of server that was launched, which is an Amazon S3 server, which is simple storage server. So apart from them doing COVID-19 research, an automated system could have found it.
Yep.
So what happens now, Gavin, in terms of liability? Who is liable? Is it
So
Amber
that's
or
a-
is it GOJ?
So that's a tricky legal issue that I can't say who is really liable, but in terms of from a data protection perspective, because Jamaica is launching or trying to implement the Data Protection Act. So what the act itself says is that you have people who are entities who are data controllers and entities which are data processors. In the context of this situation, not in terms of liability, but just who gets the label, the government would be considered as the data controller, and then the contractor would be considered as the data processor. Now it's for the Information Commissioner's Office to now, decide where does liability fall, who was
Right.
at fault, etc.
Yeah, you've already answered the question, but what would you do if you found out that your information was out there? What would you do?
So, well, for me personally, I would report it to say, hey, I've discovered that this information is out there. Please remove it. And then I'd want to know what the affected entity is doing to protect me. So in the past, similar issues have happened with companies overseas, and it's a little bit common, not anymore, but it used to be. And what some companies have done is to provide credit monitoring services for a period of time, like let's say a year, because now people are concerned that their identity might be stolen. So they might say, hey, we will pay for 1 year of some type of identity protection service to ensure that if something does go wrong, the identity protection service would help.
Yeah. From what you have said, it's easy to correct, right? We just click on private now and nobody else can find out, or no?
Yes, and yes, it is, and it has already been corrected based on the statements that were made by both the government and the initial reporter. So it has been confirmed that the issue no longer exists.
Right, but what
yeah.
1.1 million people's information has already gone out.
So-
You cannot really.
So that's up for dispute, because the government says that it's not that many records, while the reporter is saying that it's another quantity. So it is still up for dispute in terms of the true figures of how much data was disclosed.
Right.
And I'm hoping that the battle will end, because I wouldn't want for TechCrunch to prove that it is really a higher amount of data.
Well, this reporter is, as you can see, up to yesterday, he was posting threads. He's not backing down. Jamaica House said on Wednesday it's launched an investigation to determine whether there was a breach, and I guess to get more information as to what happened in this situation. But Gavin, I want you to tell me what you think the implications are for programs like NIDS, which is looking to come on stream, and how this affects our confidence that, our data will be secure.
All right, so before I jump into NIDS, I just want to clarify to everyone around the breach itself in terms of how it's labeled. So it's a privacy breach and not a security breach. And it's a privacy breach from the perspective that the data that was disclosed contained things that could identify a natural person. But from a security perspective, it's not a breach. So no one attacked anything, no one broke into anything. It's just a genuine error where something was disclosed. So the entire internet, which should not have. Now, from the perspective of NIDS is a very political thing. It's a separate thing from this. So although NIDS is coming from the government, and this might look like a really bad blunder, it doesn't mean automatically that NIDS will also be vulnerable to attack and to this type of issue. So, and in addition to that, I think people will be using this incident as a benchmark to say, if you handled this incident in this way, then how will you handle a larger system which is going to be more sensitive? So that's kind of that's a perception I've seen people have now, that they're using this as a benchmark to say, okay, we know that this happened, but how can you reassure us that when you have something bigger, like NIDS that you will do much better than this.
That's exactly why I asked the question. Not the politicization angle at all, but I know people have concerns based on this incident.
Yeah,
Yes,
but from what you've said, it's really just forget to click something.
Yes, correct, it is.
So it's not that the program is bad or we put the wrong things there, it's just you forget to click something, right?
Correct, yes. So it's not that the program is bad in any way. I've actually received a lot of positive feedback that from people overseas that they really liked that we implemented something like this. Because other countries that they visited, they didn't have this type of functionality to go through the whole COVID immigration process. So a lot of people have been praising it, and I think they are disappointed that this happened because they had very high hopes for just everything just running without any major issues.
controls,
Yeah.
internal controls and processes.
Sorry,
that's
I
that.
can't bother ask that.
What?
I was going to ask who put it together, but I guess we're going to start to blame people who would have forgotten.
Well,
I
the
don't really
Gamba
want
has
to go
spoken
there.
out
Yeah.
as a group who actually
Yeah.
did the work,
Yeah.
and
So,
all
don't want
the
to go there.
arguments about whether it was paid for, whether
Yeah,
it was
man.
free, whether
Yeah,
you
man.
get what you pay for, and all the rest of it. But we just need a remedy at this point and to find out how these folks.
Yeah.
Well, to find out first what happened, which is what the investigation
did,
is
yeah.
supposed to unearth. So hopefully, folks will be contacted, be made aware.
Yeah, man.
If they were exposed,
Thanks, Gavin.
then
Stay safe.
they can do
All
what
right,
they
you're
need to
welcome.
do.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
man,
you.
our pleasure. Gavin Dennis, Director of Strategy Operations and People, G5 Cybersecurity, Inc. All right, what else is happening?
On the other side of the break, training juvenile detention officers in life skills. We'll be right back.
I want to say something, but you're both me again, I'm can't bother.